Tonight is the night when two become one. We play a little Duel to Despair, that game that looks really fun in the arcade. And we have some very special guests joining us tonight on the CLOAK and Dagger After Show. So let's shed some light and darkness right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Woohoo! Yes, it's Thursday, so that means it's CLOAK and Dagger Day. We are here for episode 8. Two-player for season 2. Oh my gosh, super excited. I'm your host, Ollie Drennan. I'm joined by a fabulous panel. We have Karla Beltran in the house.
Hey, what's up, guys? Super excited for tonight's episode.
Yes, and we have Drew Jones back in the house.
I haven't heard this intro before.
No?
Oh,
What
really?
a bop, yes.
It's really
I hope
good.
they got a close-up of
I
you.
was like,
Yeah.
what is that?
Welcome back, Drew. We
Thanks.
missed you.
I missed you guys.
It's so good that you're back. And we also have Steph Sabraw in the house.
What's up, guys? So excited about tonight.
But we have two special guests joining us tonight. We have, from CLOAK and Dagger Season 2, you know her as Mikayla on the show. We have Cecilia Leal in the house.
Hey.
I pronounced that right?
100%.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you
Great.
so much
Sorry
for
the
joining
stress.
us, girl.
Thank you for having me.
So good. And we also have in the house, Jaime Zevallos. I said that right.
Yeah.
Killing it.
I'm like, I just don't
Two
want
for
to-
two.
I'm more nervous than you. but,
Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's a pleasure having you in studio tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excited.
And we just want to first off kind of introduce you guys. So starting with you, Cecilia, first. What is your first initial impressions of just being a part of this fantastic, phenomenal Marvel show?
Oh, it's awesome. It's like there's so much Marvel and superhero content, and I feel like I hit the jackpot as far as like quality. I feel like it's so good.
Yeah, and
So good.
And you're from Louisiana.
I am from Miami, but I am local to New Orleans. So I
Gotcha.
currently live in New Orleans. So
All right. And,
yeah.
And they film this show in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's all shot in New Orleans and it takes place in New Orleans, which is
Perfect.
cool. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you for being here again.
thank you for having
me. You're back for season 2.
Yeah.
As Father Delgado.
Yeah.
You're in this episode, so awesome that you're also here. So what is your initial impressions of being back for season 2?
The stakes are higher. The storylines just get crazier and nuttier, and just I think it's one of those shows, especially season 2. You really have to keep up with it. It's just so wild. It's
Right.
crazy.
Oh, it's going to get wild on this after show tonight, y'all. So we got a lot to talk about. We got to talk about Tandy, Tyrone, Mayhem, Brigid. Who am I missing? Andre, Aaliyah.
The priest, Adina.
There's so much to talk about. So let's get right to it for our first topic. We got to talk about our dynamic duo of Tandy and Tyrone. And if you're tuning in live in the live chat, Steph and Drew have your back. Any questions for our special guest? Fire them, because we're ready for this show, y'all. But first, Tandy and Tyrone. All right. So it's good that they're back together finally. And I have to say, I was talking to Drew, and Drew, you loved the freaking, it's called, I butchered it in the beginning, Duel to Despair is the video game.
Yes.
And as a video game kid growing up in the arcade, world, I live for this moment.
Same. I was trash at video games as a kid, but I really like that the CLOAK and Dagger story is the actual like comic book story of how they come together. Because if you didn't know, Tandy runs away from home. She meets Tyrone. Someone steals her stuff. He goes after it, and then they turn the CLOAK and Dagger due to like contaminated heroin.
Right. And this the video game. Yeah.
That's what it was.
I know.
Not that heroin is like already contaminated. Whatever. Anyway, don't do drugs. The point is, I thought that was a really cool tribute to the comics for them to bring that into the show.
It was really good.
And to bring it in that way where it was like they were actually caricatures, I think it was super cool.
So cool. I haven't seen a show do it like that before. It felt like a total different show in the way that they styled the episode. So I really liked it.
And how it transitioned from video game to them actual as people in this world, in the dark dimension, kind of playing this game. And I thought the episode really encapsulated kind of like, or maybe this juxtaposition of, how you play a video game, you get to be in control, whereas some of the characters in this show, this particular episode, such as Evita, wasn't in control. You're not able to have full control because you have this kind of concealed fate. But anyways, what did you guys think of kind of like okay, first off, were you guys childs of the arcade cabinet? Did you play video games growing up?
Yeah. Street Fighter 2.
Oh.
Street Fighter 2, yeah. The local pizzeria, we had one of those. So.
Mortal Kombat?
Mortal Kombat as well. I'm pretty good at that stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I want to talk about the graphics. the graphics were like a throwback too, right? It felt like I was watching Nintendo or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what I played. Nintendo 64. All I did was Mario Kart.
Yes.
But like hardcore with all my cousins, like 8 controllers, like
Way too competitive.
yelling.
I really want to play Duel to Despair now. It reminded me of. Have you guys ever played the Simpsons game?
Yes.
No.
Where you fight the family. Oh my god. That's what is giving me major vibes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I wouldn't be mad if this is like what the Cloak and Dagger's activation at Comic-Con is, if they somehow figure out how to make that a thing. If you haven't been to Comic-Con before, they do these activations for different shows. Last year, you could do like the Cloak and Dagger touch where you explode and get blasted.
Drew and I did it.
We did, and my shoes fell off. Like in the video, you just see my shoes in slow-mo.
And I had like a massive wedgie.
Yeah,
so
it
just
was-
pulls you.
It was awesome, but yeah, I would not be mad if like somehow they figured out how you could play the game this year at their activation.
Oh, that'd be super cool.
Make it happen, Comic-Con San Diego. Are you listening?
Cut the check.
Drew's got you. Pitch it now. Pitch it now, girl.
Listen.
But it's good because I think this episode kind of ends on a bittersweet note for Tandy and Tyrone. They are able to escape thanks to Evita, which we'll talk about. But also, Tandy and Tyrone, they're in a better place. They kind of reconciled. But also, we come to find out that Tandy's mom is back abusing alcohol. And, you know, this whole issue of her and Tandy, you know, meeting Mikayla too at this well, kind of shady organization now that we know. So
Right.
how is your interpretation of seeing or just knowing that this character, Tandy's mom, and Tandy trying to help her mom is back on abusing alcohol?
Yeah.
Because you're like the catalyst of Tandy's arc in this season.
Yeah, I feel like my character and Tandy's mom are like kind of like soul sisters or something. I know it's like dark for dark reasons, but I think also that's like what Tandy is drawn to in Mikayla. This sort of like savior complex first off, but also like, you know, I feel like deep down maybe she thinks that like if she saves Mikayla before she, you know, gets to where her mom hits. But I just imagine that's like the lowest blow after all that progress.
I know. It's like they finally reconciled.
Heartbreaking.
But now there's just another issue that we have to deal
Yeah.
with. And
Do you guys think that she went back because Tandy was missing for a while and she kind of felt helpless and didn't know how to kind of be of help, and that's kind of was her fallback for her?
Yeah, I felt like because Tandy lost hope, and hope is essentially like what her power is. It kind of almost like the spell was broken, like her healing process was kind of broken and it was interrupted, and she stumbled back. So hopefully, like if Tandy can kind of tap back into that hope, hopefully I'm saying hope a lot. She'll be able to get back into it.
You could always say dagger. If she could dagger
if she
herself
could just
back
dagger.
to it.
Also, Tandy's last lines to her mom was, you could have just left, which is, we talked about how ignorant of a statement that is, especially for victims and people who have dealt with abusive relationships. So, but she probably internalized that and thought, maybe I'm not good enough to be a mom. I couldn't leave my husband. I couldn't do this. So I get why she would spiral.
Yeah.
man, I don't know. This just made me think about when Tandy was coming for Mikayla that one episode back in the day. Remember that? Mikayla was just sitting there.
It was
and
awful.
Oh my gosh.
Trust me.
Well, we got to get to another huge topic before we get to that, Steph is going to clue you in.
Oh,
on
yes.
giving back to us because we love you guys so much. We have
Yeah.
a special giveaway, but Steph, take it away.
Yeah, we'll talk about the giveaway at the end of the episode, but we wanted to thank you guys for being in the chat with us. We love when you give us comments because you guys point out stuff we didn't even realize through the episode. So thank you guys. You're the reason we're the ESPN of TV Talk. One way that you could help us keep bringing this content to you is to like this video on YouTube, leave us a comment after the video ends, and if you're listening on iTunes, give us those 5 stars. Leave us a review there. Those are extra spicy. We love those especially. But other than that, thank you guys for rocking with us. We love bringing this Cloak and Dagger show to you guys every week.
Thank you, Steph. And thank you for using the word spicy.
Yeah.
One of the best words.
It is.
But one of the topics that is huge in this particular episode was Evita and Auntie. You know, we knew Auntie's passed away in this episode. R.I.P.
guys.
Auntie. And now Evita is kind of the one who has to step into this fate of following in the footsteps of her aunt, which means she has to marry Papa Legba, right? And she did that, right? Because she has the veil, she has the sight, and that means she has to let go of her lover Tyrone. So now the ship wars are coming to an end. You know, because we know we were kind of team Evita and team Tyrone.
I really like them.
but it was
Yeah, you're their yeah, you worked with them all last season. Oh,
well, how was it for you seeing that, knowing that your character played a role in those two, that dynamic duo, which is kind of coming to an end? Because it was so heartbreaking this episode.
It is heartbreaking. That's the word. Heartbreaking.
Poor Evita. Justice for Evita, for real. What did you guys think? Like, I'm speechless.
Well, I actually thought that it was very interesting how she kind of broke it down, where she said her auntie told her that it's her calling and that she doesn't necessarily have a choice, because she did mention that she wanted to go to school and go to college and all of that. And she said, why can't I be selfish with like what I want to do? And I thought it was really interesting how her auntie told her, like, well, you know, that like this is your calling, like you were given this gift. And I feel like that also was kind of one of the main topics for this episode, was like your calling and what you like, the gifts that you were given were given to you for a reason, and whatever you're doing, like that's what you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes you might want to do something else. And like it was kind of like, I really loved the storyline. I hate that like Tyrone and Evita had to end, but I think that this was her way to step into like a bigger thing, which makes us think like Evita's going to be a much bigger character than what we've been using her, and I think it's really exciting.
yeah, I agree. Coming off that point too, I love the juxtaposition of religion and spirituality, and like the belief of where Evita and Auntie, their belief system, and then that whole conversation about how she said, oh, so it's kind of like a priest, like you're married to the church, and she said, no, not really. So it's interesting to see, and I'm sure Priest and Father Delgado, his character, felt a similar way, where it's, you can't be selfish. This is what you were called to do.
Mm-hmm. I just want to give like kudos to the writers, because I feel like shows like this where you're touching on a lot of touchy subjects and you know, you have so many people of color, a lot of times characters can be written very one note. And I love, especially with this show, I feel like the Black women on this show are written with so much like compassion, and like they do have to sacrifice, but it's not in the way that like we're used to seeing it, to where like everything is like riding off their backs and they're you know, like there's no reward to it, and it's like, cool, another, you know, Black woman struggling, and like we just have to watch it. Like I just love that there was so much power, and like she took ownership of like her sacrifice, and I thought that was really dope. So kudos to the writers, because that's a refreshing take.
Yeah. It did really suck though. I know that she was very heartbroken. I felt that character's heartbreak, and it's kind of like that old saying, if you love something you can let it go. So she had to let go of that relationship with Ty in order to save not only him but Tandy as well.
But it looks like she didn't even technically have to do it, because like they were about to go, and then the bouquet popped up, and it was like, oh well,
you gotta go now.
You gotta go anyway.
Confused about,
and I was like, damn.
Okay, so I was super way off, to be honest with all of you guys. I thought that this was Evita marrying Tyrone, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're getting married. So I was like,
teenage love affair.
But then Dagger and CLOAK were like kind of becoming more of like a real connection, and I was like, what is going on? Like I was really lost. So now it all makes sense. So thank you guys for being here.
What about you guys?
Making things clear.
What about you guys? Do you ship Tandy and Tyrone, or Tyrone and Evita? What are your thoughts on these two characters? I know the ship wars are going crazy right now.
Jaime has an opinion.
I have two opinions, but I think Team Evita and Tyrone, like, see, the thing is, I feel for Evita so much, because I feel like she has so much, and it's not just another woman of color, like, having pain, but like you said, great words, like owning her pain, and even though like she's younger, she has like this elder woman kind of vibe, like almost like a mom, like, but she has no kids on the show, and she's just willing to do what she needs to do to get the job done. And I feel like the fact that she has all this pain and she owns it, that's like a sign of true strength. Like she's doing the selfless acts, and so kind of torn.
It's hard.
What about you, Cecilia? Are you more Tandy Tyrone? What do you think?
I don't know.
You're like, no, Mikayla and Tyrone.
Season 3.
If I were actually Mikayla, I would say I'd go back to Jeremy.
No Jeremy.
No Jeremy.
I think, I don't know, when I worked with, I briefly got to work with Tyrone and Evita's, and I really liked them together on set. I've never been with both like Tandy and Tyrone when they were like in a flirtatious like mood,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
scene.
And because, also the relationship is pretty platonic. For the
Yeah,
most
yeah,
part.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah, for sure. So I say like Evita. Let's go.
Oh, okay, we're all team Evita.
I really like that they're not pushing the Tandy Tyrone romance
yeah.
thing, because like I really don't feel like there's been anything romantic. I think it's
They've
been
done a good job of
love
like
that.
teetering that line
Yeah.
and making
Never
a
see
normal
that.
friendship.
Ever.
You never see that.
No.
and like although in the comics like they are eventually together, whatever.
We'll get there. Maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, I like that this isn't a present thing right now. It's just like trusting each other and being there for each other in a friendship. And I like having that example on TV that men and women can be friends without, wanting to rip their clothes off.
Right.
I love it.
So
Love it.
good job.
But yeah, I also love.
Thank you.
I love. Who said it? Which one of you said it? That kind of how Evita has like this old soul. It kind of just reminded me of it. Almost as if Auntie kind of. She didn't fuse with Evita, but kind of Auntie's always going to be with Evita no matter what, despite her being gone. But also a fuse that did happen in this episode was Bridgette and Mayhem. Oh my! First and foremost, I love this. Emma Lahana to be able to play these two characters, and you're literally acting with yourself. These two
And
different
you can
characters.
tell when she's like Bridget, and you can tell when she's like Mayhem, when you're like, oh my goodness.
But also, they're not sisters. They're the same exact person, and they're having this dialogue, and it's you almost as a viewer acknowledge, you think that they are sisters in that scene that they had in this episode. And I love, shout out to the comics, because the nail color poison, because
I want that
Mayhem
color.
So good.
Me too.
Mayhem,
You're getting there.
I know these are like
it's just a little darker stuff, just a little dark.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you're on the right track.
next week.
But obviously Mayhem in the comics has poison capabilities with her scratches and whatnot. But anyways, they've kind of fused in this episode. So now we have this one entity that contains Bridget and Mayhem. What were your thoughts in this episode? Because that was crazy. That's a game changer.
I thought it was really cool just because last episode I feel like we saw bits of Bridget come out in Mayhem and vice versa. Like, I feel like they're both fighting to kind of find those other parts, and it's sort of like with Tandy and Tyrone, they have to understand where each other's coming from in order for them to work. I think Bridget and Mayhem are the same way, and so to see them together, and then to see like once they were fused together, you could still see both parts of them, was like crazy. Emma Lahana's so
I'm
good.
so
Like,
happy. This is the best thing that could have happened because I didn't want to get rid of either of them. I
Right.
needed them to be together. So, and it was the perfect amount of time to have the characters separate. My favorite part was that scene when they're talking to each other and like figuring out the emotions of their dad, of her dad, their dad, because I like how each of the characters either dealing with like an individual problem or a societal problem, and for her it's more like she's had stuff that's been built up since childhood, clearly.
And it seems like she had no one else to talk to, but now she has herself to talk to, which was Mayhem.
I wish. Well, I guess we all do that.
But I also just love the transition of the nail polish painting.
Yeah.
The
The
manicure.
nail polish was like
It was
definitely
so
my dagger
cool.
moment.
I love that shot of them finally, and obviously Mayhem was kind of the one to leave. And I don't know if they're going to be able to like divide or come back together. I don't know. It's really interesting. What did you think? Any thoughts?
That would, like, the nails were the star of the show. Of that scene. During the manicure scene, I was like, wow, I was just really staring at the nails. And also Emma's great performance of just subtlety. And I really saw, for like the first time, me personally, like the vulnerability that Emma brought to Bridget. I really saw it, vice versa. You know, and it wasn't so much that she played Mayhem as this, like, you know, surface character, demonizing person. It's just very cool the way she just blended the two together. And
Yeah.
Yeah. There was this a quote that Fuchs said to Bridget before she went in to meet Mayhem, Mayhem snatched Bridget. But before that, Fuchs said this line. He said, "To get what you want, know what you're willing to give up." And I think that really said a lot about this episode with Evita, but also Bridget as well, because she's kind of giving up some of her self-control by fusing with Mayhem. So it's really interesting. And I also think this kind of goes into Adina's story with you and how she needs you, Father Delgado, in order to, because she needs to give you the Monopoly file, and because you're a priest,
Right.
and no one's going to come after you because you're a priest. You have that whole, what is it, that you plead the fifth, right? I don't know. I'm not a religious person, so I don't know.
I think you plead the fifth.
I'm a priest, so you can't come out. But basically, you had a huge role in this particular episode, and to find out the truth that through confession, she killed Connors. That was insane. Did anyone else see that coming? I didn't see it coming.
No.
me. But I didn't see it coming like the way that it happened. That was like very Dexter style. I was thinking like that the crabs, because they kind of focused a lot on like the crab cakes. So I was like, oh my gosh, she poisoned him, you know, and he like dies because he eats these crab cakes that she was making. And then to just kind of see her going to confession, and then out of nowhere, it's just like Dexter room, and you don't like see anything, and you're like, oh, she killed him. But I had a feeling that she killed him.
And, like, obviously don't murder anyone, but I understand that. I understand.
Full disclosure.
I understand Tyrone's mother's motive, because this is a man that destroyed her family, changed her life forever, killed Billy. And obviously this is a black family versus this white man who he didn't suffer any repercussions. And he's had so much power and control over her throughout her entire life because she's not been able to feel any closure. Mm-hmm. And by killing him, it's not a good thing to do. But I think her mindset, like, that was what she wanted. He gave her what she wanted, which was to find out where Billy's body was. So it makes sense. It's not a good thing that she killed him, and she has something. I don't think that's a good thing for her character, but it makes sense. You know, what were you guys' thoughts on this?
Well, did you catch so when I read the script, right, I kept thinking, I was like, where's this confessional? Where's the confessional? Mm-hmm. And we were filming, it's a house, and I thought it was so cool how they just, did you see the partition? It was a window, so they parted it, and I was like, oh, that's the confessional.
I love that.
Cool.
How, where is Delgado's mindset right now? Because, I mean, Adina kind of read him for filth a little bit. She was just like, get it together. Like, going into these next couple episodes, like, where do you think without giving anything away, where do you think, like, his mindset is? Because he seems like he's...
Because now he knows he didn't really do anything to CLOAK. Like, CLOAK didn't make any decision based on the last conversation. He's not the one who killed the cop. I mean, like, the cop wasn't killed by him, right? Yeah. So some of your conscience would be cleared. Right.
I think, well, you know, like, as we started seeing, like, from the first season to this, you know, like, it's kind of like a joke. A priest walks into a bar. He's still there, I think. He's still in the bar. But I think he's kind of going through, you know, he's living at a rehab center now. And I guess we'll see what happens, right? If he goes back to officially being a priest or... But I think once you're a priest, can you ever not stop being a priest?
Yeah, because you said a line that said something along the lines of, it's not a job, it's a life. It's like, it's
like your calling.
Yeah, kind of. It's like Evita's calling. Oh my gosh, you and Evita. Oh my gosh, there's so much semblance.
Quick question for both of you. With this show, obviously you guys touch a lot of really heavy topics. You know, your character has the alcoholism issues, and then yours with domestic violence. How do you guys go into these roles and handle all this heavy stuff, and then go home and like unpack it, and you know, try not to let that affect your normal life?
Can I go first? You want me to
go for it?
Oh, okay.
You got this.
No pressure.
You know, I feel like I'm new to the show, and I like didn't have too much time for prep, and I like basically would shoot all of the scenes in like 2 days straight. So I would just be like inundated with all of the scenes at the so like all of those where it took place over like 4 days where we were at the counseling group was all shot in like 2 days. So I feel like I just like threw myself into it for 2 days, and then I was like fine. If it were more long term and I had to do stuff like that for a longer period of time, I don't know how I'd do it. I'm not there yet. I've never had to work on something for that long and be I want to be, though.
Manifest it.
Yeah,
like it.
Totally.
Well, I think for this episode, which is funny, I hadn't slept like a few nights for some reason. I couldn't sleep in Louisiana.
The show just makes you anxious.
Yeah. Anxious. I had some shrimp po' boys or something.
Oh,
I couldn't sleep or something. I don't know. And that Louisiana food's amazing, but that's another topic. But yeah, I think. Having said that, I think, you know, obviously his mind's a little bit altered when you're an alcoholic and, you know, you're not all there. And so I try to just kind of do things to just not actually do alcohol, but kind of like try to get myself in a different mind frame.
Right.
And I remember for episode 3, we had to do like this. The director's like, okay, you have to do these lines. You know, you're doing it to the crowd. It was like 8 pages. He's like, just do it all as one take. And there wasn't a lot of, there was extras, but there was also a lot of pedestrians. So it was really cool just pouring out my heart to all these strangers on the street. And, you know, it has to affect you a little bit, right?
Yeah.
If you really feel it, but then you just, you know.
Yeah.
Just gotta shake it off.
Shake it off.
Nice.
Eat some beignets and
Oh,
that's
That
it.
would be a good clear up.
Make me hungry. Give me some jambalaya, please. Well, speaking of the streets, you know who else ended up on the streets in this episode? Leah. Leah's dead in this episode. Because we didn't see a whole lot of Andre, but he ended up kind of using Leah. He killed her. He needed to he needed to inflict pain in order to kind of feed himself. So that's not the last you've seen of Despair. But it's time to get to our special segment, which is actually different this week. We're gonna continue interviewing our special guests and grilling them. They're in the hot seat. We also have the live chat. So is there any hot questions from that live
We'll pull them up
chat?
as we go.
Okay.
But I'm curious, kind of going off Drew's question, since the show does deal with such heavy topics, are any of the topics that the show has hit, like alcoholism or sex trafficking or domestic violence, are those things you're passionate about in your day-to-day lives? Like being a voice for
yeah, absolutely. I volunteered when I was living here in LA for many years. I volunteered with a company called Arts for a Better Tomorrow, where we would go to Tijuana, specifically Tijuana, to do art therapy, which would include acting, right? So a lot of these kids already had been human trafficked, so they were kind of, I guess, out of rehab already, but they were really young. They were like 11, 12 years old, and they already went through like drug addiction, and they were already human trafficked, but they were rescued. And so we would go to these orphanages in Tijuana to teach them acting so they can break out of their shells and talk. So it was really close. But the fact that it happens in this country, I'm like, that's super close to home.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about human trafficking, and it's like this thing that you hear in passing, and you're like, yeah, it happens here. Like, it's really bad in Florida, it's really bad in Texas, blah, 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 California. And you at least for me, like, I always kind of took it at face value, and I never really understood the logistics and how it actually happens and how often these victims are blamed. And I really didn't know too much about it when I came to the first episode and we had the first table read, and the showrunner Joe was like, this season's basically going to be about sex trafficking, human trafficking. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go home and do some reading. Whoa! And it's really eye-opening, and it's exciting that like a show like this that, you know, a lot of young people watch. Freeform's awesome like that, but a lot of young people are watching and are like, oh yeah, no, I've always heard of this. I maybe should know more and do something about it.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's more like an introduction.
Yeah. I love that the show has been able to broadcast a topic like this in a comic book show that's totally lovable on its own.
It's crazy.
And then cram in these important topics.
And it's not just one. They like tackle so many. But it's done really gracefully, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Gracefully and educational too. Like I'm learning along the way as well.
Totally.
What's obviously every production is different, and you take something away from each show or movie, whatever you've been on. So what's something about Cloak and Dagger that's special, unique, that you've been able to, both of you, been able to take away after filming? Because it's a heavy show. It's like so crazy.
Food on
Besides the beignets.
The food on set's amazing. I'm just really hungry. I think everyone from the cast, from the crew, there's no egos. I've worked on shows where there's like, you know, you can just feel the egos in the air. You just want to pop their egos. But on this, like the showrunner, Joe, is awesome. Just
so passionate.
Joe Pakaski is just
He's
amazing guy.
awesome.
I think the word for me would be like energy. Everyone has such great energy on that show, like from the cast and the crew, and they're just there to do a really good job.
Yeah. The professionalism is amazing. Like Olivia is like such a professional. They all work their butts off. and like they're in like every scene, you know. They're there like morning, night, morning, like all day, every day, and always with a smile on her face, always ready to work, always putting her best foot forward, and she's awesome. They're awesome.
Damn.
Yeah.
That is
We admire them.
Yeah, and it's funny because we're viewers, we're fans. We don't even we know that, but also
Yeah.
hearing it from you guys, you're the co-stars, and also you guys get to play with them. And you hearing this from you, it just makes me have a lot more respect for not only you guys but also them as well, because they are kind of like have so much weight on their shoulders in this show, because it's solely
Important story.
Cloak and Dagger, you know,
Yeah.
and obviously with all the themes and heavy symbolism that goes on with it. Anything from the chat while we have them in prisoners?
Tied down.
Were you guys comic book fans before this? Like, how is it being in a comic
Yeah.
show?
Yeah, totally comic book nerd.
And Marvel specifically?
Yeah. Yeah, actually Spider-Man, yeah. So
Yes.
Awesome.
Peter Parker, yeah.
I was not, but my boyfriend's obsessed, obsessed with comic books. Like, literally has to recycle the like 7 boxes in our extra bedroom like every 6 months.
way.
Like, oh yeah, really
Iconic.
intense. Reads a ton, like obsessed with The Walking Dead, like obsessed.
That's a good franchise, too.
Yeah, but the comics more than the show. But yeah. He likes to correct me on that.
What other roles would you guys like to be playing? Like, what is your dream type of genre?
For me,
You go.
I don't think that's a hard question.
That is a really hard question.
Because you never, once, it's all about the journey. So once the journey ends, that means you're retired from acting. I feel like I do a lot of theater, so I feel like, theater for me has been a place of, I did a play off Broadway in December, and I got to play like 5 different types of roles. Everything from a young man to a 95-year-old man on stage, and I was like, wow, this is really feeding my soul, but now it's done, and now I need more. So it's kind of like a drug. I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
There's no like, it's not a mountain to climb. I
Yeah.
think it's more like just kind of like little lily pads along the way that I want to hop on. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have like a genre or like a type of role that I would love, but if we were talking theater, I could tell you characters that I would die to play, like May in Fool for Love or Rosalind in As You Like It. Like I could talk about that for days. But I don't know if I have like a one thing. I don't want to just do one thing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And what are you guys currently working on?
Oh yes, please plug it.
If you're
I
allowed
know,
to tell
please
us.
plug,
I was
plug.
just recently on an episode of NCIS New Orleans.
Yes.
And I have a if I make the cut, I will have I'll be in a new Netflix movie that's currently untitled and starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Foxx.
Nice.
And Kelly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I just did a movie that's actually came out last week. It's I think it came out last week.
You're like, I don't know.
I don't know.
How nice for you. You're in so many things.
No, it's really cool. It stars Emmy-nominated actor Richard Cabral, amazing actor in it. Leslie Ann Brandt, Vanessa Ferlito. I think she's on NCIS.
Really?
Yeah, she's one of the leads on
Oh, cool.
NCIS.
She
New
was in my
Orleans.
scene. I would have known her.
Yeah.
She was in my scene. Disclaimer.
It's cool. It's like an edgy, dark, street urban movie called
Cool.
Duke. It's really cool. It's out on all major platforms. So I'm like,
Awesome.
okay,
Yes.
cool. And then just shot a movie last week, but did the NDA thing.
Yes.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Choosing your words very diligently.
Yes.
Right?
Now that you guys are officially part of the Marvel universe, it's been announced there's going to be 8 new Marvel movies by 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Insanity.
Disney's releasing all these new Marvel shows. If you guys could be any Marvel character besides the ones you are now, who would you want to be? It's hard.
Cecilia, your boyfriend would be so mad that do you not
I'm
have
not prepared.
Yeah.
I know.
You gotta be prepped.
I don't know.
Marvel. Like, I don't think I would want to
know
take.
enough of them?
I think they're already like the good ones are already done, and I feel like if the ones
X-Men. Get your
X-Men.
grip. X-Men are coming.
X-Men, I think, it's funny. I don't think there's a lot of like Latino superheroes out there in the mainstream public, and it really
Heard
it
that.
bothers me because so much of the fan base of Marvel and comic books are Latino. And dude, we spend money. There's been like studies that Latino people just
show
spend their
out.
money. We're the highest kind of group of highest ethnicity of entertainment consumerism.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel.
Nice.
That makes
I'll flip the question because you're right. It is hard. If you could see Cloak and Dagger do a crossover with any Marvel character, Marvel like storyline, who would you want them to interact with?
Well, like my favorite is Spider-Man, and just because of like the age, like it would be really cool to see the three of them interact.
Yeah.
He is so good. But also, there's so many.
I think in the comics they interact
do.
with Daredevil.
They
And
do.
Spider-Man.
And and
Spider-Man.
They get introduced because of Spider-Man.
I knew
Runaways,
that.
damn it. I say it every week. Runaways. In Runaways, the comic book, the first one by Brian K. Vaughan, Spider-Man was in it, and Cloak and Dagger were in it, with all the Runaways. Just saying. Anyway.
Oh, also, now that I've thought about it, my favorite Marvel, like maybe I guess if I would pick one, maybe like Valkyrie.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Iconic.
All right.
You're mine.
She's completely iconic.
Amazing.
Tessa Thompson.
Oh,
like,
she's everything.
Agreed.
God.
She's everything.
Cecilia, I have one more question for you. I'm just curious because as a woman, this show does a really good job of having strong female leads.
Yeah.
And Joe Pekaski has women writers, and you can definitely tell. How was that for you? Is that not, like, do you usually get that? Or?
No, it was an amazing experience, not just in the writer room, all over the set, all over the characters, and also so many female directors. I think it was like 6 or 7 out of the 10 episodes are directed by women. That does not happen.
Facts.
And they're all super unique. They all bring something different to the table. They're all amazing. I mean, I worked with a handful of them, but that was really refreshing.
That's awesome.
Really refreshing.
Yeah, it's important for female writers and directors to be able to write and direct other females, and vice versa. They want that.
Yeah.
Like you obviously would, like you just said, you want that. It's so important.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're running short on time, so we have to get to predictions. But before that, if you want to win this comic book, all you got to do, and our special guests, they're going to sign it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are going to sign this. 'Cause you're a part of this. All you got to do, give us that 5-star, like Steph said, on iTunes, or give us that 5-star in the comments below, and just DM your address. If we pull your name on finale night in a hat, Karla's going to do it.
Yes,
just
I am.
DM us.
DMX.
DMX.
DM us.
DM us on Twitter or Instagram, your address, and we'll ship it to you. This is for free. All you gotta do, give us a 5-star. So easy to do.
It
Free.
is. I want it. I might submit myself.
Well then, time to get to predictions.
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Well, first off, without saying too much, where do you guys want your characters? Where would you want your characters to go moving forward?
I know my character. I want her to like come out the other side and become best friends with Tandy.
I love that.
They had like such cute little chemistry.
They need to
I
reconcile.
wish.
Yeah.
We ended on a bad note, for sure.
Yeah. You'll just have to keep.
I'd like to kind of get back with Tyrone and play basketball with him. I'm serious. We're both Knicks fans, but I really want to play basketball because I seen him play ball. And I was like, I got to play ball with him.
He loves basketball. Huh?
I love it. I love it. What about my panel? What do you want, what do you think's gonna happen?
I have no idea because every week I message Aubrey and I'm like, dude, what the hell did I just watch? And then he goes, just wait till next week. And that's what he said today. And he was like, you're actually going to be really stressed out next week. And so I'm just like, I don't know.
Wait, next week we're gonna be stressed out?
He was like, you're going to be stressed out this entire season.
Oh my God.
So I don't know. I don't have a prediction because I just want to see some major like ass kicking. And that's it.
All right. I like that.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I really want to see what happens because we see the final scene of Tandy and Tyrone's. I think Tyrone, I played it back a few times because I couldn't really hear that no one made it out. Is that what he said to Tandy? In their final scene when they're hugging together. He said something cryptic like that, and I got really worried because if you thought about it, his mom is kind of out of the picture now. Her mom's out of the picture. Evita's kind of out of the picture. So I have no idea where everything's going. Did you guys hear something different?
I don't know.
I
I was just enjoying the embracing moment.
I was focused on.
I was just trying to be optimistic.
I was going into dark places, so I don't know.
Karla, what about you?
I actually think that I've noticed that now CLOAK kind of has more control over his powers because he's kind of like he kind of appears now, and I don't know if this is something new, but I think that what happened to them in the dark zone has made them stronger, and we're definitely going to see them kind of come across Andre, and I think that we saw he's gonna open the door and he's going to get to the other side, which is probably going to cause for other things to come outside from that door, because whenever you open a door, whatever was inside there could also come through. So I have a feeling that something else might come through as well, and that's going to have to trigger them to kind of go ahead and have the final battle that they're supposed to.
What?
Go ahead, Drew.
I forgot. I think Andre's gonna be able to tap into his like godliness, because when he was driving, remember, he like was humming and then he realized like his little sign thing was music notes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's like the key to get him to open up that door. So I think next week
he was playing an instrument last week.
He was playing a trumpet.
Yeah.
And
I think
he
the door
The
open.
chat corrected me that Tyrone said they're gonna get Despair. That's way better for my heart. Thank you guys.
all right. Well, I have no clue what's going to happen other than Mayhem's just going to go mayhem on Andre. I think that's going to happen. Yeah. But until then, we do have to wrap up, unfortunately. I want to thank my special guests for joining us.
Guys.
We really
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it. And where can we find you on social media? And if you have any other plugs to plug, do it now.
Instagram, my name. Oh, God, my name. Jaime Zevallos. JaimeZevallos.
My Instagram is Ceci, CECILEAL, Leal 478. Numbers don't mean anything.
I gotta get your Instagrams after the show.
Oh, I'm Steph Sabraw. I was so focused on the 478. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw.
And I'm Drew Jones. You can slide into the DMs at OKDrewJ.
And I'm Karla Beltran. You can follow me on Instagram at @IamKarlaBeltran.
And I'm Ollie Drennan. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ollie Dreamer. Until next time, guys, we'll see you next week.
Ciao!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.